Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create some cute little geode earrings. Now I've got the first one done over here, basically done. I haven't done the varnishing just yet, but this is roughly what we are going to be making. So you are going to need some translucent clay, and now I'm going to be working with powder translucent pink and purple and normal translucent today, and then I'm also going to be incorporating some Primo white. However, any translucent colours will work and any white will work, so it doesn't specifically have to be powder. I just wanted to use powder because it's nice and translucent, and it already comes with some pre-coloured translucents. So first step is going to be to take some of your translucent, and I'm going to be using this geode cutter today. And basically we want to just take a little bit of translucent powder, and I just want to shape that so that it will fill the inside of our piece on, like so. Now don't worry if that gets a little messy because it's going to get cut out later on, but that's basically what we're going to be wrapping our little snakes around. So I'm just going to pick that up and put that to the side for the moment. Then all you're going to do is you are going to start rolling out very thin snakes. Now you can use an extruder to do this if you want to speed it up. Powder doesn't work very well in extruders because it's a fairly hard clay. However, something like Primo or Cerner, if you got hold of those translucents, would work very nicely in an extruder. So if you don't feel like rolling out a bunch of little tiny snakes, you can always just use an extruder for that. And all you do is you just wrap that around your main core. And I'm working on a ceramic tile. That makes it a lot easier because you can just stick the clay down and it will sit and not move. And then I will do a purple strand and basically the exact same. And you just continue doing that until you have basically enough to fill in your cutter, and then we can move on to the next step. Now you want to alternate between your colours, your translucent and your white. And the thinner you can get these snakes, the better. So that's why I tend to like doing them by hand, because I can generally get them thinner than if I used an extruder. But again, you can use an extruder if you want to speed up the process. Okay, and there we go. So now I want you to grab some plain printing paper. Just lift this up, place that down onto the paper, and bring up another piece. And what you're going to do is you're going to start burnishing this, because you want all of these lines to burnish together into one solid piece. And the best way to do that is with the paper, because then you avoid fingerprints. So just continue to burnish until it feels like one nice flat piece. You can lift it up and check every once in a while, but basically you just want to burnish until you can't feel any bumps anymore. And then afterwards we can cut it out. Okay, so I think I've burnished enough. I'm going to lift that up, and if I can see any bumps or cracks I will continue burnishing, but it looks pretty good. I've got one little spot over here that isn't quite burnished enough. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm just going to take my blade here. I'm very gently going to clean up the spot. There we go. Now remember, we are going to be doing some light sanding, so we can clean up any dirt like that. And now generally you will need to stretch it a little bit more because it will come out more rounded than I would like. And that way you'll be able to fit your cutter. And now if you wanted to make a whole bunch of these, what you could do is you could make a kind of like a bullseye cane, where you start with the center a center core of translucent, and then you wrap your colors around it. So for this one you could see that you would then wrap a sheet of the pink translucent, then the purple, and so on and so forth until you had enough layers. And then you could cut out slices and do what I'm doing here, and then you could make a whole bunch of them if you wanted. So just making sure that I have that roughly in the middle. Okay, then make sure that you press nice and firm and lift up, and it's going to stick because it was on paper. That's pretty normal. And so what I'll do then is I'll use a little silicone tool to push it out, and the silicone tool should not damage it or create little bumps. Okay, then you should be able to take that out. There we go. Now I want you to pop that into the oven for at least 40 minutes at Burroughs recommended temperature, or if you're using a different brand, put it in at that brand's recommended temperature. And then when we are done with that, we can tend to creating this kind of gold layer around the edge, and after that we'll do some sanding and finish it off. Okay, and there we go. So you can see that that's semi-translucent right now. We will need to sand it to get it completely translucent. And now all I want you to do is just take a little craft knife and trim away any little bits of excess, because we're going to be painting the edges, and so we don't want to have little rough edges. You could sand it, but that would take a lot longer, so I typically just will scrape my craft knife around the edge to clean this up. Okay, then next you want some gold paint. Give that a shake. Pop a little bit down, and now we might make a little bit of a mess on the front, but that's fine because we are going to sand that off later on. I just want you to put a nice decent amount of paint around the top, the outward edge and the inward edge. And when we're done with this, I'd recommend popping it back in the oven for another 5 or so minutes just to heat set that paint so that it is cured onto the clay. And our sandpaper will still be able to get it off, so you don't have to worry about the front, but it does mean that it is a lot stronger on the sides. Okay, and so here is the one that I just painted. So it's a little bit on the messy side, that's fine. Just pop it into the oven for about 5 minutes just to heat set that paint. Once it has dried, you don't want to be putting it into a hot oven while the paint is still wet. Make sure the paint is dry first. Pop it into heat set for 5 minutes, and then after that we're just going to give it a light sand to remove any dirt or paint on the surface to give it a light sheen, and then we can get onto assemblage. Okay, so they've been heat set, so now we are going to give them a sand. So I'm going to start with a 400 grit wet dry sandpaper, and I have a bowl of water off to the side that has a little bit of dishwashing liquid in it, and this just helps not to clog up the sandpaper with the debris that you sand off of the piece. And I'm just going to start with a 400, very quickly sand it. Remember to sand the back as well, that's important. And then I'll move up from the 400 to a 600, then an 800, then a 1200. Then after that we can tend to make it nice and shiny. Okay, so I finished sanding them, and you can see they're much cleaner, but they still do have those scratches on the surface. But that's fine because we're going to be applying a little bit of resin to them. And I'm just going to be using this UV resin here, and I'm going to be applying this to the back and the front, but not to the sides. It's important not to apply it to the sides, it will just make a huge mess, so I would advise not resining those sides. Just going to pop a little bit onto my brush because I want to have control over this, because this is a very thin, small piece. Just want to brush on a very thin layer. Okay. So just continue brushing on that resin until you've covered the whole surface, and then repeat with the other one. And then I tend to leave that in the UV light for about 15 minutes just to make sure that it is cured fully, and then I will repeat the process on the back side. Okay, so now that they have finished curing, we're just going to take a drill bit and we are going to drill a hole. Now I'm going to go nice and slow with this because we have resin on both sides, and I'm working on a piece of paper because right now it's still a little sticky because it needs a full 24 hours to cure completely. So I work on a piece of paper so that it doesn't stick to the tile or get fingerprints like that. Okay, and I just want to show you this actually quickly, how it looks. It looks really nice, and you can see how that is definitely translucent. Okay, then I've got these sweet little bales here. I actually might just use my fingers to do this. Just position that little hook in there. Squeeze, and then I typically will then apply my pliers. Okay, there we go. Then I'm going to grab an ear wire and a jump ring. And I'm going to open the jump ring, pop that on, and then slip on that ear wire. Like so. And there we go. Very easy. Now I'm going to repeat with the other one. Okay, and there we go. So that's basically it for this tutorial. You can see that it was a very easy, fun tutorial to create, and you could do this in many different colours. I chose purples and pinks, but you could do blues, reds, greens, any colour you want. Go have a look at a bunch of different geodes and see which ones you like, and just play around and have fun. It's a lot of fun to create. Also, the little edging, you could do silver as well. There's a bunch of different colours you could play around with, see which one you like. And basically, yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you could play around with this tutorial. So let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you like this tutorial, please do consider checking out my Patreon membership site. I post exclusive tutorials on there for members only, and so you don't want to miss out on those ones, and it also helps support this channel so that I can continue doing videos every single week. And as always, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.